Hi, everyone. I'm Colin Smith, and welcome to our mentoring call. This business gives us a fantastic opportunity to improve our financial options and get us to financial freedom. And CashFX is certainly changing people's lives. We've got many different countries and time zones represented on the call today. So thanks very much for taking the time to join us. We're part of the Forex Superstars team, and our mantra is people helping people. I'm part of the leadership team, headed up by CFX Director Ron Palmer, who will be joining us shortly, with the help of a very committed leadership team, and we're here to support you. The leadership team consists of Janet Walder, Andy Ogden, and Terry Farrell, who's here with us from the UK, Thomas March in Malta, myself and Stephen Rediker in Japan, Gabriel Mcbadieff and Jenny Lanyon from Australia, and Willie Breed in South Africa. So we're truly spanning the globe. Okay, and just as we speak right now, the CFX cruise is underway. One of our leaders, Janet Walder, will be cruising around Italy, around the Mediterranean. So looking forward to seeing all the pictures when she comes back. Thanks. Congratulations to our American team. You just had your Thanksgiving last week, so happy Thanksgiving, a bit late. Okay, so today we're going to kick off with looking at The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. This was something we touched on a couple of weeks ago, so gonna get some training on The Strangest Secret. Ron is going to join us, and he's going to talk to us about landing pages and what a powerful tool they are. And then I'd like to move on to the Cashflow Quadrant and talk a bit about my own personal journey and see how you all relate to the different quadrants that Kiyosaki talks about. Okay, so without further ado, let's move on. Okay, so just to kind of recap, The Strangest Secret was by Earl Nightingale. It was a spoken word record made in 1956. So although it was a long time ago, a lot of the truths are very timeless. Okay, so last time, this is what we covered. Part one, everybody wants to succeed, but only 5% actually succeed. Okay, so Earl Nightingale asked the question, what is success? And he says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So why do so many fail? Because we conform, we follow the wrong 95%. Just like the blind leading the blind, it's the failures leading the failures. So, you know, we don't get anywhere. And so who succeeds? Those with goals. Like a ship with a captain and a destination, he makes this analogy, or an airplane with a pilot and a destination. If you have these ingredients, you'll get to your goal. The opposite would be a ship with no captain, no destination. It's just going to crash on some beach. Okay, so why do those with goals succeed? And this takes us on to part two. Okay. Right, so just gonna share the video here.
Welcome to the animated summary of Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. This is part 2, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about why people with goals succeed in life. In part 1, I gave the definition of success. Now the question is why people with goals succeed. Here is why. We become what we think about. Let me say it again. We become what we think about. Throughout the history, the great wise men, teachers, philosophers, prophets have disagreed with each other on virtually anything. It's only on this one point that they are in complete and unanimous agreement with. We become what we think about. Listen to what Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, said. A man's life is what his thought makes of it. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, a man is what he thinks about all day long. William James, the father of American psychology, said, the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitude of mind. In the Bible, you read in the Mark 9:23, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. William Shakespeare put it this way, our thoughts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. George Bernard Shaw said, people are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, make them. Well, it's pretty apparent, isn't it? We become what we think about. It stands to reason that a person who is thinking about a concrete and worthwhile goal is going to reach it, because that's what he's thinking about. And we become what we think about. Conversely, the person who has no goal, who doesn't know where they are going, and whose thoughts must therefore be thoughts of confusion, anxiety, fear, and worry, becomes what he thinks about. Their life becomes one of frustration, fear, anxiety, and worry. And if we think about nothing, we become nothing. Now, how does it work? Why do we become what we think about? To answer the question, suppose a farmer has some land, and it is a good fertile land. The land gives the farmer a choice. He may plant in that land whatever he chooses. It's up to the farmer to make the decision. Let's say farmer has 2 seeds in his hands. One is seed of corn, the other is nightshade, a deadly poison. He digs 2 holes in the earth and plants both seeds, covers up the hole and takes care of it. What will happen? The land will return what is planted. As it is written in the Bible, as you sow, so shall you reap. Remember, the land doesn't care. It will return poison in just as wonderful abundance as it will return corn. The human mind is far more incredible and mysterious than the land. But it works the same way. It does not care what you plant, success or failure, a concrete worthwhile goal or confusion. But what we plant, it must return to us. Now you may say, if that's true, why don't people use their minds more? The human mind is not used because we take it for granted. It can do any kind of job we assign to it, but we use it for little jobs instead of big, important ones. So decide now, what is it you want? What do you really want? Plant your goal in your mind. It's the most important decision you will ever make in your entire life. What is it that you really want? All you have to do is plant that seed in your mind. Care for it. Work steadily towards your goal and it will become a reality. It not only will, there is no way that it cannot. You see, that's like the law of gravity. If you get on top of a building and jump off, you'll always go down. You never go up. It's the same with other laws of nature. They are inflexible. They always work. The very law that gives us success is a double-edged sword. It's all in how it is used, for success or for failure. We must control our thinking. Nightingale calls this the strangest secret in the world. He calls it strange because very few people have learned it or understand it. The greatest teacher of all gives us this secret times and times again. As you believe, so shall it be done unto you. In this episode, I explained the strangest secret in the world and how it works. In the next episode, I will talk about a test that you can prove this law to yourself. Subscribe and tune in for part 3. Don't miss it.
Okay, so before we go on to part 3, I listened to The Strangest Secret many years ago in a success club I was in. Rob is here with us. He'll know what I'm talking about, and it's always stayed with me. It's always been so simple and yet so profound. And I love the idea of the mind is like the land, the soil. You plant the coin, you plant the nightshade. The mind will produce whatever you plant in it. Anyone want to share their thoughts on that, or their experience about the mind, how it controls the direction of your life? Anyone have any?
Yeah, I do.
Sure, Chris.
Look, it's a different book, but it's the best book I've ever read. It's called 3 Magic Words by Ulysses Anderson, and it covers how you program your own subconscious mind, various ways to do it, but the simple ones and the results that come from that. And it's along exactly the same track, so it's not really a secret, but the fact is none of us know about it from birth. We have to be taught it, and these programs are wonderful for that.
Awesome, great. Could you say the name again, Chris?
Yeah, it's 3 Magic Words.
3 Magic Words.
By Ulysses Anderson. You can buy it on Amazon or any of those.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of variations. It's called a secret, and yet it's not a secret. Anyone else? Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Colin. And just to piggyback on what Chris said, everyone's opinions their own, and everyone, of course, is entitled to their own perspective. I would suggest, though, that we actually do know this inherently. We know that we can be, do, and have anything and anything that we want. It's just like Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and bring itself to believe, it can achieve. So when we're children, we instinctively and inherently, we know this. If you go to, say, a kindergarten class, a bunch of 3-year-old kids, and you say to them, who can play the violin? And pretty much 90% of the classroom of these little kids, their hand's going to shoot up and say, yeah, I can. And then you say the next question. So let's see, what's a violin? Do you know? And all of them say, I don't know. But they instinctively know that they can do it, right? It's automatic. They know that they can play the violin. They don't know what it is. They've never seen one, but yeah, of course they can do it. So it's just like Henry Ford, what he said, he said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, either way, you're right. It's your thinking that makes it so. So if you think you can do it, it will be your reality. If you think you can't, then that's going to be your reality. So the idea is to relearn, because we do know it, but as we grow up, I think it was some study from Stanford University. They actually made a study, and by the time we're 18 years old, we've actually heard can't 20,000 times. You can't do this, you can't do that. What makes you think you can do that? We get ingrained, we get this negative indoctrination. But the fact of the matter is, we can do it, and it's really all down to your thinking. So thanks for sharing, Colin.
Great, yeah, thanks, Rob. That's very, very inspiring. And yeah, kids have this sense, they can do anything. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be a Premier League footballer, and then we grow up and it's like, oh, I'll be an accountant, or I'll be a bus driver or something. And yeah, we do hear can't, and we sort of, absorb these limitations. Anyone else?
No, I just thought it was brilliant, Colin. I really enjoyed it. It's just thought-provoking, isn't it, Colin?
Sure. Yeah. And you're the embodiment of that, Ron.
Maybe.
Jerry.
Yeah, it might be a little bit deep, but I've gone back to in my 20s. Positive thinking wasn't, I'll set goals for my sports and things like that. I even left England to go race. I was a racing side to live in Belgium to race. But I came across a book. It might sound strange, but it was a book called The Lazy Man's Way to Riches. You may never have heard of it, Joe Carbo. And I thought, this is interesting. I'd like to do that, Lazy Man's Way. So I bought the book, and then it just sounded a bit hocus pocus, really. But it said, well, try it, because you never know unless you try it. So I actually read this book, and I set myself from the book 5 goals that included affirmations and visualization of the goals. And I did these affirmations and visualizations for about 6 months, and then put it away. But over the next few years, certain things happened to me that allowed 4 of those goals to actually materialize. Something came at me and I had a decision to go one way or the other, and I knew exactly which way I had to go based on those 6 months that I put in, and it worked. Some of them were material goals, others were, well, they weren't material goals. It was like, how could this ever happen? Because I would have to put in so much physical effort to make it happen. But it led me to the people, the situations to actually achieve those goals. So it does work if you think about something all the time, and you go for your positive thinking, of course, and visualization, very much so. It can happen. It does happen.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. And I think, we can often be skeptical and say, oh, it's just a coincidence, or you're just lucky or whatever. But they say it's funny how many coincidences happen, or how lucky you become when you start applying these principles. So something must be happening. Yeah. Okay. Rob, we'll take you, and then we'll go on to part 3.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing, actually, because it just came to my mind, but very brief. I've heard on previous calls people talking about dream boards, right? So presumably everyone has a dream board or a vision board, whatever you want to call it. And this underlying principle of the Strangest Secret is behind that dream board. Because if you look at your dream board, you become what you think about most of the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the key things that we have in this group. What is your dream board? What is your vision board? What is your goal for this month, for next month, for the next 3 months, 6 months, and so on? Okay, so Earl Nightingale then goes on to give a 30-day test, a 30-day plan that we can go through to test this out. So let's listen to that.
Welcome to the animated summary of A Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. In the part 1 and 2, we talked about the strangest secret in the world, and we said that people with goal succeed in life. In this episode, I'm gonna talk about a test proposed by Earl Nightingale. It's a 30-day test to explain how you can prove to yourself the secret by putting it into practice. Before going to the test, let's first talk about one of the natural laws that Isaac Newton gave us. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This applies as much to human beings as it does to the movements of bodies. Simply, it means we can achieve nothing without paying the price. The result of your 30-day experiment will be in direct proportion to the effort you put forth. So you must be willing to pay the price. Now, what is the price? Well, it's many things. First one is to understand emotionally as well as intellectually that we literally become what we think about, that we must control our thoughts if we want to control our lives. It is understanding fully that as you sow, so shall you reap. The second one is permitting your mind to soar as it was designed to do and realizing that your limitations are self-imposed. It is rising above self-limited thoughts. Third is using your courage to force yourself to think positively on your own problems, to set a definite and clearly defined goal for yourself and let your mind think about it. Let your imagination look for solutions and refuse to believe that there are any circumstances sufficiently strong to defeat you in accomplishment of your goal. And the fourth is action. Ideas are worthless without action. That you have nothing to lose by making this test and everything you would possibly want to gain. There are two things that can be said about everyone. Each of us wants something and each of us is afraid of something. For the next 30 days, follow each of these steps every day until you have achieved your goal. First, write down on a card what is exactly you want. Make sure it is a single and clearly defined goal. Carry the card with you so that you can look at it several times a day. Think about your goal in a cheerful, positive way each morning when you get up and at night before you go to bed. As you look at it, remember that you must become what you think about. And since you are thinking about your goal, you realize that soon it will be yours. Second, stop thinking about what is your fear. This is the difficult part because it means the formation of probably a new habit, and new habits are not easily formed. Once formed, however, they will follow you for the rest of your life. Each time that a fearful thought comes to your mind, replace it with a mental picture of your positive and worthwhile goal. For 30 days, you must take control of your mind and don't give up. In addition, give of yourself more than you have ever done before. Do this knowing that your return in life must be in direct proportion to what you give. Don't concern yourself too much with how you are going to achieve your goal. Leave that completely to power greater than yourself. The answers will come to you at the right time. All you have to know is where you are going. Remember these words from the Sermon on the Mount. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh, receiveth. For 30 days, do your best and keep your goal before you. Now don't start the test until you have made up your mind to stick with it. If you fail and are overwhelmed by negative thoughts, you have to start over again. Gradually, new habits will form. And never forget the card. Don't worry. Remember, all you have to do is hold your goal before you. Everything else will take care of itself. Now, since this is a difficult test, you may say, why should I bother? Well, look at the alternative. No one wants to be a failure. Remember, you will reap that which you sow. So only sow positive and cheerful thoughts. Start today. You have nothing to lose, but you have your whole life to win. Please like the video, it helps a lot, and subscribe if you like book summaries. Thank you.
Okay, so that was his challenge, 30-day challenge. Just some thoughts on that. And this is something that a post that Ron put in the group recently. The person you will be in 5 years depends largely on the foods you eat, the books you read, the routines you adopt, the people you spend time with. Okay, because all this will have an effect on your thought life, on your physical life, spiritual, everything. Okay, books you read is something we've looked at particularly, like Robert Kiyosaki's books, Of course, you can listen to them as well. So as the speaker says, it's a double-edged sword. You know, if we plant good thoughts and, you know, good input, then we'll get good things out. But if we plant negativity and fear, we'll get negativity, failure, and so on. Okay. Anyone like to chip in there? Anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions? Anyone want to try the 30-day challenge? Stephen.
It smells in here.
I'm just trying to think what would be a good goal for 1 month. Let's brainstorm. Like a CFX related goal.
Yeah, I guess it varies by from person to person. What would be your goal, Stephen?
In 1 month, let's say sponsoring 5 new people into my team. That's ambitious, right?
I think that's a great goal, Steve.
There you go. I think it's an ambitious goal, because I think the sponsoring 1 person might be too easy. So why not reaching out to, let's say, 30 people and sponsoring 5 people in 1 month, like that.
Stephen, even if you don't get the 5, at least you've got a goal. You might only get 3, but if you hadn't set yourself a goal,
Right,
the chances are pretty high that you actually wouldn't have recruited any.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you set 5 and you get 3, that's still a great achievement. If you set 1 and you get 1, okay, you've reached your goal, but it's still better to get 3. So why not aim higher? Yeah. Excellent.
Can you hear me?
Who's Gabe? Yeah, go ahead.
All right. My goal is, right, and I think I should put this is my challenge right now, is to get another builder.
Awesome.
That is my challenge.
That's a great goal.
One builder right now. So that's my challenge.
Right. And as he said, write it down, because once you write it down, it kind of becomes something permanent. You can't pretend that you didn't make that goal. Write it on a card, stick it on the fridge, stick it somewhere, you'll see it. Anyone else got a 30-day goal?
Yeah, do you know what's better still, Colin? Writing it down is important. I read somewhere, I can't remember where, even better still, take it to the next step and make a voicemail. Let Gabs make a voicemail to himself. My goal this month is to find 1 builder. And you see what happens if Gab plays that, because it's not going to be half a minute, is it? And if Gab plays that to himself a couple of times every day, that will reinforce what he wants to do. I think that could have a major impact as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Telling people, of course, would be a big stimulus, because then you've got to live up, you've got accountability. Some people say it works better if you don't tell anyone, just keep your secret to yourself, and there are different schools of thought there. But anyone else? 30-day goal. It doesn't even have to be financial, and this is the thing that I got from this. It could be about your marriage. It could be your kids or your partner or your studies, or anything in life.
Colin, I'm going to take on another job. I'm going to make Stephen and Gabs accountable, and I've already noted down what their goals are. And every week I'm going to ask them how they're doing, so they know they're accountable to me. Is that okay with you guys? And anyone else who wants to be accountable, put it in the group. I'll make a note, and every week, thanks, Tom, I knew you step up. Every week, I will ask people, Tom, how's yours? Steve,
Yeah, well, my
how
goal
many
is
is in your five?
between now and Christmas is to move up to the next level, which to me is a 10K pack, and also to have brought in 6 people by Christmas.
Send me that in a message, Tom, can you?
All right, will do, Ron.
Thanks, Tom.
Just thought I'd share that with everyone, so now you know that's what I've got to do.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, excellent, Thomas. Kim.
I'm going to go for the 3 sponsors in a month, in 30 days.
Well done, Kim.
I'm going to do the 30.
Right.
I'm going to do the 30 people and sponsor 3. That's my accountability.
Excellent. Make sure you write it down.
I've written it down already, and the voicemails
Awesome.
as well. Reminders.
Send it to me on a message, Kim, and then I'll make
I will
a note.
do. I will
Thanks,
do.
honey.
Great. Okay. So we look forward to seeing how those goals pan out. So I'd like to hand over to Ron now, who'd like to share about the landing pages. Over to you, Ron.
Now, I've had a bit of a change this morning, Colin. What I'm
Okay.
going to do, I'm going to put the landing pages on the shelf. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take people through the process of how they would go through when they bring on a new person and when the penny finally drops and those people are on the same page as the people are who are recruiting them. Now, what I'm going to tell you, I think everyone on this call will be doing what I'm doing, but they'd all have a different take on it. So when we start, let's pick out Colin, because Colin was my most skeptical of people. The first thing I did when I got Colin, we didn't even mention the business. We had to connect. Why did you go to Japan, Colin? Oh, you used to live in Liverpool. Did you know my business partner lives in a place called Wigan? That's near you. And this is all connecting. And I don't think Colin and I spoke about business for probably 6 or 8 messages. Did we, Colin?
I'm trying to think back, actually. I think the first thing you sent me was a video. And
right, yeah.
I was intrigued by the video, but I had no idea what you were doing.
No, you
I was
didn't
just very
understand.
impressed.
So obviously,
that-
no, that's
yeah.
right. Now we've obviously come a long way. So if I had Colin now and then I knew the time to press the button, or he might say to me, what keeps you busy online, Mom? And the first thing that I'd do, if I had the landing page, I'd obviously send him my landing page and I'd say, Colin, there's a lot of information there. Can I suggest you just watch the first video, which we know is our 90-second one that sets the scene on our business calls, and watch the second one, which is John Kinnear's one. When you've seen that, there's also a 2-minute video of a snapshot of my life. Watch that as well, Colin. There are also, if you've got time, many other very inspiring videos from different people from different walks of life. So you may be cynical and not believe mine, and that's okay. But what you can't do is dismiss everyone else's. And then if you want to go further, there's 2 very powerful ones at the bottom. One is from an investment banker, Joanna Martirana, and the other one is from a Swedish corporate lawyer. Now, once Colin or anyone has done that, or if you haven't got a landing page, or it could be Desi or Lenike or anyone on this call, they would choose a video to send them. My favourite one is always Joanne Martirana's. Desi's might be Ray St. Clair's. Colin's may be John Kinnear's. It matters very little. And once they've got that, the next question that I will be sending out on a call is, Colin, once you've seen those, if you like what you've seen, can I suggest we get you on a Zoom call, because you're bound to have many questions. Just to put you at ease, these Zoom calls are not constructed to convince you to join. In fact, we wouldn't even ask you to join on the call. We're going to share more information with you. There will be many people on the calls. If that's a step too far, we can do a one-to-one call with you. And once we already know the success rate that we have when we bring people on the call. So the next thing is we have to find out what sort of person Colin is. Oh, the next question, I think a lot of people may not ask it, but it's very important. Colin, can I ask you what your why is? John Kinnear puts it a different way, which personally I find a bit corny. John says, do you want to earn money fast or do you want to earn money slow? Come on, guys, everyone's going to say fast. So I much prefer to find out what their why is. And if Colin says, well, what do you mean, Ron? Well, Colin, if you decided to join CFX, what would be the main reason? Colin could say, well, I've got kids who are on the verge of going to university, Ron. If you were in England, that would be £9,000 per term. And the financial weight of that is worrying me. I'm now in my, I'm taking a guess at Colin's age. I'm now in my mid-50s. I'm lurching towards your retirement. And I've got an idea that the things I want to do in retirement, take more holidays, travel a lot, not have to think about anything. Looking at my pension plan, that's not going to be a possibility. So as soon as Colin tells you that, you know, he's not saying it in his words, but he's asking you, can you find a way for him to reach financial freedom and perhaps even quit the rat race? And we know that's possible, don't we? Because we know that Mick Worth has done that. And we know that Janet's done it. And we know that Elaine's partner quit her job at the hospital. So we know it's possible. And this is not the 5 or 6 year plan, which you will get to if you decide to be passive. We know that Mick Worth did it in 15 months. Elaine's partner did it in, I think, just under 20 months. Janet did it in 14 months. So you don't have to be a real mover and shaker to get there. And we know that financial freedom doesn't mean getting to the 100K back. Oh, if you had a person who didn't say any of that, and you explained to them the different options, you can either be a passive member. By being a passive member, the financial benefits, Colin, would be that you would be able to double your pack that you paid for. So if you got $1,000 back, you would be able to double that. They don't give you a time frame because there's no guarantee on the sort of returns that we get daily, but that should happen in 7 to 8 months. However, if you decided to share it, like lots of people do, that pack of yours, the profits would quadruple as opposed to double. And if they want to be passive, that's absolutely fine. And all you'll do then, you won't keep them on the outside, but you won't have to pester them. Each bit of information, you'll keep tickling them, you'll tell them what you're doing, and they might never wake up to sharing it. It might be a step too far, or they might say, yeah, show me how to do that, Colin. But you do need to go to that process. And I think perhaps a missing link may be that not enough. If you've got 40 people in your team and all 40 of them are passive, that's absolutely fine. Well, It's not fine because you'd much rather that they'd be sharing. But if they're passive, there's nothing you can do about it, and you don't want to press them. But what I would say, I think in most of our teams, there's lots of people who are sitting there and they are passive, and perhaps they're either afraid or that's a step too far because they're thinking, well, I wouldn't know what to do to share it. And you know that on our calls, on these mentoring calls, we've got all the tools for them. We take them by the hand and they don't have to do anything. And it's not until you ask that why and you say, so people like Kim, or the classic example, she'd like to get out the rat race. People do want to get out the rat race. And perhaps there's lots of people in your team who are afraid to ask you for your help. So perhaps it might not be a bad thing to revisit them and say, are you quite happy still earning passively, or would you really like to know how you can quit that rat race and reach financial freedom? And that's what I do. I just tickle my people every week, and there's always one or two who step up and they do need your help. Colin, that's me done.
Right, thanks very much, Ron. Yeah, we all need reminding from time to time, and for ourselves and also people in our team. And I think the why, speaking personally, my why has evolved over time as well. Because when you first contacted me, Ron, and you persuaded me that I could make 1% a day, 5% a week passively, I would have been perfectly happy just like that. Okay, stick down my $300 and let it go. I mean, that alone was like way above what I, even dreamed of. And then the idea that I could build a team beyond that, so it's like my why sort of got higher, my sort of desires, my ambitions got higher. So sometimes it takes those stepping stones.
You would have been the last person in the world, Colin, who I would have thought would have built a team the size of the team that you built, Colin. I said, I'm absolutely, what do you think about Colin then? I remember John Tuck saying, yeah, I said, a really nice guy. But I said, he won't be a builder. Colin will be passive for all his time in CFX. It shows you how wrong you can be, Colin.
It's probably because you thought that I thought I'm going to prove you wrong.
That's right.
So it worked out for the it worked out for the best.
No, it doesn't.
Actually, that's a nice segue, actually, because I want to actually tell a bit about my personal story, and this relates to the Cashflow Quadrant and the 4 quadrants: the E, the S, the B, the I. And I think we've all kind of had some experience in, one or more of the quadrants. So hopefully, if this helps some of you, all well and good. Sorry, Kim, you wanted to share.
I was just going with my whys again, because obviously I want to do this, the leading page, and I still got to make my video, the landing page. If I remember rightly, isn't this the legacy company that we can leave to hand down once this, well, we're building up towards a legacy company that we're going to be able to leave down to the family? Is that? I really don't know where that works and how it works, because we seem to have forgotten that along the way while I've been here. Just wondering how that was working or not, because that was one of my whys, was having something solid to leave my grandchildren, my daughter. Right.
Yeah, so in your back office, there's a place where you can put your next of kin who you would leave the business to. And Pascal's vision for this, it's not, in terms of years, it's in terms of decades, to pass on to your kids, on to your grandkids, and so on. So that certainly is the vision of the company. Does that answer your question, Kim? Awesome.
I think, Colin, when we talk about a legacy company, for me personally, I agree with Kim. We will become a legacy company. You could not call a company when, and I've read it a few times, and I think it's quite misleading, and you'll get torn down in shreds. A company that's been running for 27 months isn't a legacy company. A company is something like Amway, who's been running for 57 years, Colin. That's a legacy company. A 27-month-old company, I believe people would laugh at you if you said, yeah, I'm with a company that is on its way to becoming a legacy company. But we're not a legacy company at the moment. That's personally my view, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, these are the seeds. This is the early stages, but that's the vision. That's the direction that the company's taking. Okay, let me move on. Okay, on to Robert Kiyosaki, Cashflow Quadrant. As Ray said in his talk, that this is on audio as well, and I've been listening to it, while washing the dishes or just doing household chores. I don't always have time to sit down with a book, and it's just so powerful. Just to remind you, there are 4 quadrants. The E, the employee, so you're basically working for a company. Self-employed, you're working for yourself. B, the business owner, you own your own business and you've got people working for you, or a system working for you. And I, the investor, where you've got money working for you. And Robert Kiyosaki wants us to move from the left side to the right side of the quadrant. Okay. So I just wanted to share a bit about my own experience here of the 4 quadrants. I just found it uncannily accurate. And I realized I spent most of my adult life in the S quadrant. And this was a quotation from Robert Kiyosaki. Of all the life paths, this is the one I feel for the most. In my opinion, being an S can be extremely rewarding and the most risky. I think the S quadrant is the hardest quadrant there is. The failure rates are high, and if you make it, being successful can be worse than failing. That's because if you're successful as an S, you'll work harder than if you were in any of the other quadrants, and you'll work harder for a long time. And I just know that to be true. And I just felt like I was in this trap, and I didn't know how to get out of it. Just like the U2 song, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. That's kind of how I thought about my work. And so my takeaway from that, I think disgruntled S's are prime candidates for CFX, because they've got the kind of entrepreneurial spark. They're not afraid of stepping away from security. They're not an E, but at the same time, they're probably burned out, worn out, cynical, looking for something else, looking for an escape. Okay, so this is a kind of journey through my life. I started off as an E. I came to Japan as an English teacher at the age of 23. This was back in 1996. I joined something called the JET program, which was a government teaching program. I had a good salary, easy job, easy life, good holidays. Free housing was one of the perks at the time. No wife, no kids, no mortgage. I had no responsibilities, a high disposable income. But I didn't really appreciate it, I guess. I squandered my income. I didn't save much. I didn't learn anything about finance and life skills. There was no upward advancement. My salary didn't budge. And then after that, I bummed around for a while, no direction, no goal. was just traveling around. I was in Malaysia for a while. I worked there. And then I think it was 1999, I first picked up Rich Dad, Poor Dad in an airport bookshop. And a light bulb went off my head, but I had no idea how to apply it. I just thought, oh, interesting idea. And I just put it aside. So I got a teaching qualification. I joined a Tokyo language school. I quickly got frustrated with my work, but I couldn't find a way forward. So I gave up on my fixed salary. I chose payment per class or per hour. And this is where I learned that the more classes I took, the more money I could earn. That being paid per hour was better than being paid on a fixed salary. But the downside, less security. Fewer classes meant less income. If I took a holiday, there was no income. So I was learning slowly to become less dependent on security. I dabbled in MLM. I had to go with Herbalife, but with zero success. I moved to a better translation company, 2004. I tried to become a translator. I got married and then worked as an in-house proofreader, gaining new skills. Okay, so this is how I thought my life path would go. I realized I didn't like office work. I hated office politics. So I gave up my in-house position, moved to freelance proofreading. At first I had no work, which was meant no money. And that was pretty scary. And then the work came in a trickle and then in a flood. It just came in, more work than I could handle. I discovered if I get paid per page, it's better than paid per hour. So I could leverage my time. I was only limited by how hard I worked, how fast I worked. If I kept the clients happy, they'll keep coming back to you. So I thought, yeah, I'm making lots of money, but I was still trading time for money, and I didn't really know any other way. I didn't know there was another way to make money. I was learning new skills. I learned to do my own taxes in Japanese, and I had to do that to get a mortgage. I learned that the paperwork was a lot more complicated than when you're an employee. The banks don't like self-employed people very much. You have to do a lot more paperwork. I never used an accountant, so I learned about tax breaks, claiming expenses by myself. Had 2 kids, 2009, 2014, and for quite a number of years, I was just happily preoccupied with family life. I dabbled in mutual funds, gold, Forex, and stocks. I lost more than I made. As Kiyosaki said, investment without education is like gambling. And that's basically what I was doing. I joined a success club. And this is what I mentioned before in reference to Napoleon Hill, Nightingale, some excellent mentoring, learned that you become what you think about, met lots of new people, and who you know. This became a very sort of important theme in my life, which I'll come back to. I bought a house in central Tokyo. I was earning more. Life seemed on the up and up. But as Kiyosaki said, a house is a liability and not an asset. So was I really moving forward financially? I started getting stressed. When I said yes, clients would give me more work. When I said no, they'd stop giving me work. So I ended up saying yes to every single job because I didn't want the revenue stream to dry up. Working harder and harder, working nights, weekends. I just felt I was on call 24/7. I was missing my kids growing up. Taking a holiday meant no income. So overwork just became an addiction or habit. Sometimes I longed to be an E again. I wanted to be in that quadrant. So I took up dispatch contracts just for the job security, income security. I actually enjoyed being back in an office and working fixed hours. I felt my taxes were too high. I had to pay consumption tax, which is like VAT on profit above a certain threshold. So, you know, I asked myself, well, why work so hard if, you know, the government's just gonna take their cut of it? And then crisis hit. And I'd had seasonal lulls before, which caused me a lot of anxiety. Some months were a lot higher than others. But 2020, COVID hit. My income just fell in half overnight. It's around April 2020. In hindsight, this was a kick in the pants that I very much needed. It resurrected my entrepreneurial spirit that had been dormant for around 7 years. I decided to take action. I took an online digital marketing course, spending quite a lot of money upfront and monthly, because there were tools that I need to pay monthly fees on. I came across Dan Locke, who said, you know, learn a marketable skill and leverage it. And this is what I thought I was doing. I was learning a lot of new skills, great mentoring, meeting new people, again, about who you know. I learned to step out of your comfort zone, accept criticism, fail often, like Thomas Edison. But it was slow progress. There was setbacks. It was pretty hard to sign on clients. Sometimes got nasty messages from outreach, which was maybe good practice for CFX. Signed on clients who turned out to be dissatisfied, people who reneged on contracts. A couple of times I had to give refunds. So here I thought I was transitioning to a B. I got a couple of good clients. I learned the phenomenal power of social media, communication in the digital age. But it was really hard work, and on an hourly basis, I was earning much less than before. So, you know, how was I really moving forward? So I fell back on my proofreading and teaching, and because of COVID, Zoom classes were kind of handy. I didn't have to go out. But I was working harder and harder. Bought a buy-to-let property. I was seriously interested in the I quadrant, but I was still an S and not a B. I couldn't leverage my work. And this was one of the key takeaways I got from the Cashflow Quadrant, the difference between an S and a B. Many S's think they're a B, but they're not. And the proof was that I couldn't walk away from my business. And if I did, everything would collapse. So I was majorly stressed. There was a lot of tension at home. And this is where, like a bolt out of the blue, Ron sent me a Facebook message about CFX. This is late December 2020. I ignored it at first, and we had some correspondence, as Ron said. 4 months later, April, I joined. First of all, I thought it's a great passive income. I'll just leave it alone for 5 years, then have a nice pension nest egg. And that's all I was looking for. I was totally uninterested in MLM, having been burnt in the past. But Ron pushed me and mentored me to build a team, to build a business. And looking back, I'm just amazed and grateful how much time he invested in me. Massive support from the team, people helping people, as we say in our team. But it forced me to focus on one thing. I realized I couldn't do the marketing as well. I didn't have the headspace. So I just shifted, I pivoted to CFX. Who you know, and this is where connections from the past, from the groups that I've been in before, people like Rob, people like Stephen, like Ben, who are on the call, became some of my first team members. So unwittingly, I was becoming a B as well as an I. And Robert Kiyosaki said, MLM is the fastest or easiest way to the B quadrant. He recommends B because you gain a lot of skills and experience along the way. So don't go straight to the I. It's good to be a B because of what you learn. So now I feel I'm heading towards the I quadrant. First time in my life, I'm earning real passive income, using other people's time, other people's money in the B quadrant. I've got a team of 41 so far, and I've never had any success in MLM before. Just upgraded to the 5K pack. My wife's on a 7K. We've got a business account on the 1K, so we've got the packs feeding into each other. All the while learning about investments, about taxes, about crypto. So this is, transitioning into the I quadrant. well on the road to securing my financial freedom in the BNI quadrants. And if you'd asked me this a year ago, I would have said this is a pipe dream. I just thought you just have to work and work like the hamster on the wheel. And another upside of that is I feel much less stressed in the S quadrant. I'm still working, still proofreading, still teaching. I enjoy my work, but I don't feel I need it as much. And there'll come a day when I can let it go or carry on just as I choose. Sorry to go on a bit, but I thought I'd share my story. The Cashflow Quadrant really sort of encapsulated so many parts of my life, and I hope it does for you.
That was good, Colin.
It's just 8 o'clock. If anyone wants to share their thoughts, their feedback, please feel free.
Just going on, Colin, from what you said. Thank you for that. Yeah, that was a great story. Is that it actually doesn't take very long for you to turn your fortunes about. Just to remind people of my story, I had a £3 million business that went belly up. I don't have to tell you how helpful the banks are. When the sun's out, they give you an umbrella. When the sun goes in, they take it back. I couldn't help it, but I put all my eggs in one basket with a major client who went into liquidation, and I lost the company overnight. I lost my pensions. I nearly lost my house. I ended up having to downsize. I probably would have downsized. We call it a bungalow in the UK on one level. But it made me want to downsize quicker than normal. And every time Sheila goes past our old house, even now, although she's happy where she is, she gets a lump in her throat. And for nearly 2 years, I had £300, that's about $500 more going out of my account than was coming in. Sheila used to call me the juggler, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Oh, I won't pay the utility bills. I'll pay the life insurance first. And then that, and the amount of times I can remember walking around the supermarket, and I may have been waiting for a small state pension payment to come in. No, don't buy that today, Sheila. Let's buy it a few days later. And I'll tell you what, I don't recommend that to anyone. And I'm always very mindful of that. When I hear about people, you know, further down the food chain than I am, and they need a payment out because it's Christmas, it doesn't sound a lot, but I can remember Gail and I, when we were on a very low pack, needing to take $100 or $200 out. I remember Gail, my business partner, she didn't have money to buy food one week, and I just had a pension payment coming, and I lent her 100 quid. And that was only, I think that was less than 2 years ago. So it doesn't take long, does it? With a little bit of belief and a little bit of effort and a lot of hard work, it doesn't take long to turn your fortunes around, Colin, does it?
Right. And often it's desperation that
Oh, absolutely.
that gives us that kick in the pants to do so.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right, Colin.
Yeah. Right. Anybody else?
No, that was good.
Desi.
I just wanted to say I can relate so much to that story, Ron. I was the same. I'd go into the supermarket, like at the start of COVID or even before. I know
you were.
I'd get to the checkout and I'd look at my stuff and I think, no, I don't need this now. I'll leave this behind. And like 19 months later in this business, from Friday, it's been Black Friday, all the emails I've been getting, I've just gone crazy buying all this stuff that I could never do a year or so ago, because up to reaching the 100K, I was saving every single cent in CFX just so that I can get up there quicker. And a year ago, I was still not looking at my emails so that I wouldn't get tempted to buy anything. But yeah, I bought so much over this weekend. It's great, crazy.
It's a great story. And
Awesome.
one of my great pleasures, guys, is I think we all know, not as kids, when you're kids, it's much better to receive than it ever is to give. But when you get older, I think we know it's a lot more fun to give than it ever is to receive. And I remember last Christmas when I gave my 3 boys 200 quid as a Christmas present. They said, "Are you mad? You're a pensioner, Dad. You can't afford to do that." I said, "How dare?" Because both of them think I'm in a deadly cult. Keep away from people like Desi and Lenny. They're getting you into a dangerous cult, Ron. They haven't got a clue. I said, "Don't tell me what I can and can't afford." You can imagine how happy I am this year, because they won't be getting £200 each. They will be getting £500 each from that deadly cult called CFX. How terrible.
Yeah, that's right. I wish
Are you going to tell them it's from CFX, Ron?
I wish
Amazing,
they already know.
That's the first time I heard someone say it was a cult. It's funny, isn't it, when they think about that?
No, I was just going to say I wish John Cook was on this call, because before he joined in April, he was watching me for months and months, looking at me, all my posts on Facebook.
Oh, I know John Cook. Yeah.
He was thinking, what have I got myself into? I'm in some cult or something. So he came to rescue me. And
Desi, the good news is, Desi, that Colin has recorded this call. So I imagine the first person you're going to send it to is probably a guy called John Cook.
So there you go. Yeah. And I think Desi, you can relate to the sort of burned out S. You're a business owner as well. The gym.
Yeah, even your story about not being able to recruit. I'd be lucky if I could get like 3 people before, and
exactly.
So anyone can do it. A lot of people have surprised me of what they've achieved in CashFX that I thought wouldn't be good at this, but yeah, anyone can do this.
Right. Amen.
It's what I put in the group the other day to Colin, isn't it? For things to change in your life, you've got to change, because there is no doubt whatsoever, anyone, if you do the same things tomorrow as you're doing today, I know exactly what you're going to get tomorrow. You'll get exactly what you got today. And it's called the same old, same old.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, on that note, shall we wrap up? Does anyone have any final comments?
I just want to say what an inspiring call, Mr. Smith. I'm not going to give you 10 out of 10 because it might go to your head, but I am going to give you 9.5. If you can live with that, that's okay.
That's great. A B+.
That was a great call.
Could do better.
I don't think so.
Thanks, Colin.
Okay, thanks very much, Ron. I appreciate that.
Ron.
Awesome.
Thanks,
something.
Thomas.
Can I just mention, as Desi's here, just want to congratulate Desi on behalf of everyone here for reaching a £4 million turnover, $4 million turnover in her business. And how many people is it now in your business, Des? You were saying you could never recruit more than 3 people. How many people in your business now?
About 1,650.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The gift keeps on giving, right?
Yep.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. And Ron's on 3,000. Is it 3,800?
120 short of 4,000. Yeah.
Wow. Fantastic.
I should hit that by Christmas.
$10 million man.
Okie doke. I think we will we'll wrap up there. So thanks everyone for coming, and
thank you,
see you all
everyone.
next
Yeah,
time.
thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
mate. Great call.
Great call. Thanks, Colin.
Great call, Colin. Well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely. See you, mate.
Bye.